Hello, everyone. Economic Ninja here. I hope you're doing well. I have a story out of the Telegraph and a warning about a potential stock market crash that you need to think about as we're seeing these all-time highs, because all-time highs never mean future highs. The stock market, the housing market goes up over time because of constant money printing. Sometimes there is a ton of money printing and stocks go up exponentially. And then there are times where money is pulled back. Banks lend less. The government spends less in recession cycles, and the stock market comes down. I want to read this story, but I want you to understand one thing that's very important. There are a lot of YouTubers talking about the GDP number, how it keeps rising or it's staying steady. It just looks good. One of the biggest indicators of contributors of the GDP is government spending. Type 1 if you agree the government continues to spend like a drunken sailor. This big, beautiful bill only allowed them to do more. Another thing about GDP that's very important you need to understand is that household spending is part of that. Well, it doesn't mean if household spending went up that people had more money. It means that it could mean that, but in these times, if the cost of meat is more, groceries are more, electricity is more, they're spending more. That number goes up. GDP is to me, it's a false positive up in a lot of instances. And right now it's flashing red. And then this is the most important thing when we talk about stock market corrections. And we just came off of the greatest hoax and oops and goof ever. And that was the jobs number coming out and they're saying, hey, we pretty much screwed up for a lot. We overcounted by 1 million jobs, give or take a few. That is when the markets always start to turn, and they don't turn overnight, okay? And you know what happened? Right after that, a couple weeks later, after that horrible truth came out, the stock market still went up that day, and because traders have lost their minds. And I want you to understand, most institutional traders, Warren Buffett, they're all completely out. The C-suite execs, they're out of the stock market. Who is left is you. And let me ask you this. No, I don't need to ask you this. This is the facts. Most people, when I say it's you in the stock market, it doesn't mean that you're a stock trader or an avid investor. But if you have a retirement, that money, that's your money being put into the stock market. Okay? All of the wealthy people are out. Congress people are out. They're all out. I'm out. I've got a lot of crypto. Crypto's starting to, crypto's still going to get hit during a stock market crash, but I highly suggest people learn about it. I'll put a link to the Bitcoin XRP 101 course down below if you want that. But my point being is that you have to understand that this is when we hear frothy, think low volume. Okay? When they talk about froth, which here we go. This is out of the Telegraph. A stock market crash may be just around the corner. We're in the early days of the final frothy stage of a bull market, meaning stocks are going up in value, but volume is diminishing because of the smart people. Smart money is now out. Okay, so the only volume left is pension funds and retail traders. It says a long shadow hung over this week's meeting of the Federal Reserve. In September of 1998, the U.S. central bank made another important interest rate decision. Also 16 years ago, into a long bull market. Everyone knows about that one. It turned out to be more consequential than investors would have foreseen at the time, inadvertently kicking off one of the stock market's most dramatic melt-ups. Once in a generation or so, investors take leave of their senses. They are gripped by mania. That's what's happening right now. I'm seeing that in the crypto markets with just completely stupid projects, NFTs, meme coins, and now you got creator coins. People are losing their ever-loving minds. And add to it, all of the liberals out there that can't even listen to the truth. Type yes or no if you agree with that. You're seeing people losing their minds. This is what comes as an empire begins to fail. It starts when we start to validate and get excited about celebrity chefs and food because the country's gotten so rich. Then the sports get bloodier. This happened in Roman times and Greek times also. Then they start to have these social programs that pump money into people and give them a reason to be lazy. This is what happens when an empire gets so rich. It starts to do all this crap and then it collapses. Okay? Now it says here, these people are gripped by a mania. Greed overwhelms fear until the music stops and those emotions are dramatically reversed. For anyone who lives through such a period, this shapes their attitude to investing and, in extreme cases, such as the Great Depression, their entire worldview. It says here, early in the author's investing career, I witnessed behavioral excesses in both directions. They made me hypersensitive to signs of both irrational exuberance and extreme pessimism. The last time there was irrational exuberance in the markets, that was really made public, was when Alan Greenspan famously spoke about this in front of Congress during the dot-com bubble mania, prior to it popping. Okay? We are seeing that right now with the FANG stocks, the certain cryptocurrencies. This is a mania. Okay? This is why you have to be prepared. And remember, gold and silver always take a hit when the stock market takes a hit. Why? Why? Because of liquidity. It doesn't matter how much liquidity is in the silver market, the gold market, it takes a hit because they're grabbing for liquidity because these funds are leveraging your money, or the margin accounts are getting called, margin calls, and they have to go get money somewhere, so they go and grab it from these other accounts. Okay? So you have more sellers than buyers. This is why you want complete diversification. And this is what most of the people on YouTube, Facebook, X that are these gold and silver or crypto-centric people hate hearing. Cash is king during a crash. Do me a favor. Type 10 if you agree that cash is king during a crash. Type 9 if you say, I don't want cash. Cash is trash. I'm really curious what you think. Because what you have to understand... Oh man, I gotta go soon. I got a jam. But this is something you need to be worried about, because if you're not diversified, and part of that being cash or cash equivalents like bonds, or maybe even stable coins making 4.5% right now, you're gonna be out in the wind. All right, that's all I got. The Economic Ninja is out.